Alright, here I am again. I just want to talk about, it's like Tuesday, and I just want to talk about how, everybody's talking about survivalist and surviving and all this and that, and tactical stuff, and that's all good and dandy, and what's going on in the country right now, and things are heating up, and I just I I pray to God and ask for answers, and I think He brought us down here in East Texas, and I don't know why, but and it's really kind of hot down here during the summer. It's like really unbearable. I'm from the north, from being up in Ohio, Michigan line there, and Toledo. That's where I'm originally from, or it's from Maumee, Ohio. But I grew up in that area, and basically this time of year, it's like the 40s and 30s now, and the leaves are changing. And here it's still a little humid. It's 72 outside, and it's like 11 o'clock. And it's really humid down here today, but it's supposed to get colder. It's been raining today, so, and I got this tent garage there. But as far as surviving and, doing things to survive, and, the employment situation and my experience over the years, when I was like 13 years old, my dad and I, we built things together. I mean, he taught me. My grandfather was a carpenter, but his real profession was auto mechanics, and I guess back in the 20s and 30s. I mean, he was born in 1898, so when cars came around, he got into auto mechanics, and he worked at a factory, but he had owned an auto shop, and I must have got my mechanical abilities from him, my grandfather, Grandpa Richter, and my carpenter skills, because I can't say that I'm the best carpenter out there, but I know how to I know how to build things, let's put it that way, and I'm creative. Now, my real father was pretty smart. He was more creative. I think he's musically inclined, and I don't know if I got that from him. I got into music when I was younger. I played the guitar, and my son is really good at piano. He can just play he writes his own music, but he seems to be a musical genius, looks like my dad, I guess, his grandfather, his real grandfather, which he never knew. But I get my carpentry skills from my dad. We built like a garage together, and we put the forms down. I was like, I think I was 15 or 16 maybe. I just learning to drive, I know that, and I remember driving down to the lumberyard and picking up stuff from my dad. But and we go down there in his truck. But I learned a lot about carpentry from my dad that raised me, and then he also was into fixing car mechanics. Him and my uncle had back in the, can't think of when that was. I know, Model A or Roadster car, and they used to run at Toledo Speedway. Used to be out at the what they call Lucas County Recreation Center, the Mud Hen Stadium, where it used to be in Maumee, and there was a dirt track out there. I guess they used to run horses out there, and they made it into a racing track for cars, and they'd race cars out there, and they were weekend warriors, race car drive. They'd wreck the cars on Sunday and have all week to fix them up for the next race on the next weekend. That's how they and my grandpa was in, and my uncle owned a junkyard, or parts place. So they had basically a supply of parts, and but I learned a lot of my auto mechanics from my dad. I was out there, out in the street wrenching on, taking engines apart with my dad, and learning a lot from that. And that's kind of where I picked up my mechanical auto mechanics from. So, but I've all along, when I was younger, I was like, if I wanted something, I'd just make it. I've been creative in that way. Like one time I wanted a bow and arrow so bad, my mom and dad didn't have the money to afford it at the time. And this is in the probably late 60s, early 70s. I mean, they probably had the money, but I just, I just went out and picked the limb off the tree and fashioned it into a bow and made my own arrows, and I had my bow and arrow. So I got pretty good at shooting a bow and arrow, and I ended up getting one. I finally bought one, at the store, I think, and I was able to shoot birds out of the sky with, well, there was one that I almost hit. It was like way straight up in the air, and I shot it up in the air, and the bird went, saw the arrow coming, and went, just barely missed it. But we were pretty good. I was pretty good at shooting a bow, and I had a bow for a long time. I just sold it to a guy. This year, it was a bear bow, compound bow. I had a bunch of arrows and had ways to fix them up, But I was always creative in that aspect. I created a lot of things in my life that I wanted to. And in survival, you should be able to be handy that way. Like in any situation, survival situation. We were outdoors people. Outdoors. My dad liked camping, and I fished a lot. I know how to fish. We used to bow hunt, rabbits and shit down in the woods and stuff with bows. My dad never got into guns that much. I mean, I don't know if he was afraid that I would kill, I don't know. My dad went in the war, World War II, and he had captured a German officer, and had a lot of like German like bayonets and swords and stilettos and German helmet and all that stuff. And he had a German Luger too, 9mm. But he always kind of didn't want. He didn't want me to know all about that stuff. I mean, I don't know if the war changed, did something to him. He didn't want to talk about it a whole lot, but he sort of liked to watch war movies though with me. I mean, I don't know why he watched war movies, but I got involved in that with my dad. It was one of his things, watching war movies. But he never talked about it. Every time he talked about it, he just changed the subject, because I think it was horrible, World War II. And my grandpa was in World War I, so both my parents were in were Army veterans. And I don't think that we need to be in all these wars. It's just horrible for just the people, the indigenous people, and just like what's going on now in Syria. I mean, what do we need to be in there for? The Kurds. Well, I don't know anything about these people. They've been fighting each other for thousands of years down there, or over there in the Middle East. So the only thing I can figure is it's all over oil. Oil and gas, natural gas, and I think it's just a big power play over who gets the oil. Well, it doesn't really matter now, because we're the leading processor of oil right now in the world. And the Democrats are trying to stop that by shutting down the oil rigs around the country, around in the oceans. And it's just lunacy what's going on today. So